Everyone, a book can offer wisdom. But when the one who lives that wisdom every day is in front of us, then the words can have an entirely different meaning. So we would like to invite Acharya Ji to guide us, all of us, and shed light on the questions of our inquisitive students.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, the school management, for having me here. And it's always an added layer of pleasure to be talking to students, and students in uniforms. Everybody likes to feel young, but I genuinely feel at this moment, it was not too long back, I was on the same seats. And that period, that phase contributed a lot to my life and towards bringing me where I am. So I'll want to kind of repay the debt. Let me see what kind of meaning, what kind of richness we can add to this afternoon together, right? Let us see, yeah. But what's certain is your presence has charged me up. Thank you so much. I will keep it conversational, though the party already has something in mind, and to some extent the theme has also been set, Operation 2030. Still, it's going to be a to and fro thing. It's structured, but only partly so. We'll have follow-ups, and we'll also have scope even for rebuttals, right? So let's start. Yes.
Hello. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I am Guni, and I was very curious about the Operation 2030 written behind you. So I wanted to ask that what is it and why is it important?
Yeah. So there are many ways I can talk about this thing, but it just struck me, in fact, just a minute back, that I should tell you a story. Probably that's one of the most interesting ways, always, to communicate what one has to, right? Would you want to hear it in form of story or in the form of a lecture? Story. All right, please sit. So there has been mankind, Homo sapiens, right? Homo sapiens. That's you and me. That's each one of us, right? And for the sake of brevity, we'll call this mankind as man, right? But man does not refer to a particular gender. Man refers to Homo sapiens, mankind, which is all of us. So there's this man, and this man is an immortal being. Because we are not talking of a particular man. We are talking of mankind itself. And people may come and people go, but people remain. Right? So there is this fellow in 1750, man. 1750. And he's facing all kinds of material troubles possible. The planet is Earth, and he does not have enough to eat. He does not understand most of the diseases that plague him. There is not enough education. There is not enough material, industrial production. Right? All kinds of problems that there can be, and he feels like a failure, a loser. What have I done? I've been existing on this planet since 6 to 7 million years, says man. And the year right now is 1750, right? The Industrial Revolution has not yet begun. 1750. And he says, I've been here since 7 million years, and I've been out of the jungle since 10,000 years. Long time. Really long time. And yet look at me. I'm such a loser. I have nothing. I don't have good food to eat. My kids, they don't stay alive. Women, they die during childbirth. The average longevity is so poor in parts of the world. It is just 20 years, 25 years. People don't survive on an average beyond that. There are all kinds of discriminations. We do not understand physical phenomena. We do not know what's going on in the universe. There is not much progress in science, arts, mathematics, any aspects of human activity. Switch off ही कर दीजिए. I do not know what's going on. And then he says, I need to succeed. I can't continue like this. I can't continue as a failure, as a loser. So he says, I need success. What do I need? Success. And he says, what's defeating me is nature. Nature. I do not know where these microorganisms come from, the bacteria, the virus. They infect me. They bring me down. I know nothing about the functionings of our environment, our atmosphere. I do not know where to get energy from. I do not, even if I know that certain goods are to be produced and those goods bring me happiness or comfort or convenience, still I do not have enough means, enough energy to extract those goods and then send them into the production line. All of that requires energy. I don't have that. So he says it has to be a war against nature, because nature is what oppresses me. Man says, I'm embarking on a conquest of nature. The war starts. Though the war had actually started long before 1750, but 1750 is when we can officially announce it, because now comes what we now know as the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution. And what do we have? We have industries, and to run industries you require energy. Where did energy first of all come from? We know of the steam engine. But water doesn't turn into steam on its own. What does it need? How did the early steam engines operate? They needed coal. So you started digging out coal, mining. And that was all fine. Steam engine just changed the way man lived. The entire trajectory of civilization. A lot of curves, if you look at them, they take an inflection around 1750, historical curves. For example, the population of the world. The population of the world suddenly starts increasing because now there is more to be consumed, more food can be produced and transported, medicines can be produced, more research can be done. Industrial activity brought all kinds of apparent welfare. That's 1750. Right? And man continued on that journey. Man said, now, after so many million years, I'm finally getting to succeed. I'm finally getting to succeed. And he continues on this mission success. Initially, it was coal, and then he found another source of energy. Because energy had been his constraint, his limit, his bottleneck. What were the traditional sources of energy before the Industrial Revolution? Muscular energy. To begin with, your own muscles. Your own muscles. And when you applied some wit, then the muscular energy of animals, cattle, other domesticated animals. That was the only kind of energy that was available to you. And that kept you back. And now suddenly, a treasure had been unlocked. Hint, what we thought had been unlocked would turn out to be a Pandora's box a little later. But for now, let's just call it treasure. So, starting with coal, we used coal to discover a more potent source of energy. What was it? And had we not used coal, we couldn't have come to that other source of energy. What was it? Oil and gas. Oil and gas. The kind of exploration and deep digging and mining it requires for oil to be extracted would not have been possible without coal. So coal led to oil and gas. Coal led to oil and gas. Now man feels, I'm even more successful. I'm even more successful because now there is more energy and consequently more prosperity. More can be done. More can be done. More goods can be manufactured. And that's what we call as prosperity, right? And when there is prosperity, we loosely translate that into happiness, right? So coal and then oil and gas got translated into happiness. Man started feeling more puffed up. I'm happy. I'm successful. I'm the conqueror of nature. I'm the ruler of the world. Right? And after oil and gas, what came next? Very recently? No. As source of energy. Yeah. Then came nuclear. And now you have all kinds of green energies. Right. So that's the story. And man has been feeling more and more successful and more emboldened to extract energy from the planet and use it to do any kind of stuff that he pleases, that he chooses to do. But what has been the other side of the story? And wonderfully enough, this story is very parallel, very analogous to what you have here, Decoding Success. And if you can understand the story of this man, you'll get a fair bit of idea what kind of success you want in your life, because you are standing at a very critical juncture of your studies, life, and decisions. 1750, the level of carbon dioxide in the Earth's atmosphere was 270 ppm. ppm is parts per million. 270 ppm. And from there it started increasing, initially at a slow rate. Very slow rate. To the extent that even when we came to the 20th century, to the turn of the 20th century, the year 1900, the ppm levels were no more than 300. So that was not much of an increase, you could say, from 1750 to 1900, just around 30 ppm. In fact, till 1870 or 1880, it was barely 280 ppm. And then it rose came the two world wars. It kept rising gradually. And then we come to 1950. This is after the World War II destruction. The post-World War II wreck had to be cleared. There was massive destruction. You know of that, right? It had to be cleared. And there was a wave of reconstruction. And also we had decided not to fight with that kind of intensity and ruthlessness. And the United Nations had been set up. So there was relative peace compared to the first half of the last century. We are at 1950. And that's when the real explosion in both material prosperity and per capita income and PPM levels starts happening. We start claiming we are getting more and more successful. And that is also the time when this PPM curve just explodes. Instead of rising gradually and linearly, it takes an exponential turn. So much so that every decade after 1950, the PPM levels kept increasing till around the year 2000 by 10 ppm. Every decade, 10 ppm. And after the year 2000, which is when we enter this century, the rate of increase of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has been more than 10 ppm. More than 10 parts per million. If you look at the curves of the average temperature of Earth and the curve of the atmospheric CO2 levels, you would feel you are looking at the same curve. It's two worms lying one upon the other. There is not just a correlation, there is a direct causation. The more you increase CO2, the more the atmospheric temperature rises, right? But man was successful and man was achieving more and more success. However, this century opens and there are already voices, sane voices, warning against an impending catastrophe, a catastrophe that the younger generations, guys like you, are going to face the brunt of. The problem is those who hoard money, those who accumulate capital, and those who are at the helm of power are usually the older folks, no? While those who will be left to bear the consequences will be people like you and these two young men. So there was a huge clamor, right? Have you heard of the Earth Summit? Earth Summit, when was it? 1992. All this is covered in environmental sciences syllabus, right? In geography. Okay, good, wonderful. We didn't have that. So at least some progress is there. So after that, there was United Nations activity and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change came about. And it is under this that you have this Conference of Parties, which is the highest decision-making unit under the UNFCCC, which meets every year, right? This year again it's meeting. Where is it meeting? Where is the COP this year? Brazil, wonderful. So the COP in 2015 was a landmark one. Very remarkable. Why? The Paris Agreement, the national deliverables. And the Paris Agreement came about for a very, very specific reason. The reason was that we were seeing a temperature rise. And there was enough scientific evidence that if the average global temperatures exceed 1.5 degrees centigrade, then there is going to be a massive problem. Why a massive problem? Because somewhere between 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees, something called feedback loops get activated. You understand feedback loops? These are self-sustaining, self-reinforcing climatic phenomena. And once they get activated, they cannot be stopped. They are irreversible. Which means that even if you now go to a net zero state, which is you do not add any additional carbon dioxide to the atmosphere, yet carbon dioxide would keep getting added to the atmosphere on its own, even without any human intervention. So that's the reason there was so much significance attached to this figure of 1.5 degrees. It does not pop up randomly from somewhere. The figure 1.5 degrees centigrade has a solid scientific basis. So, the COP21 in 2015, Paris, it said we want to limit temperature rise to 1.5 degrees centigrade. And because it was not clear when exactly do the feedback cycles get activated, so it was said, fine, at max we can tolerate 2 degrees. Because the loops get activated between 1.5 and 2 degrees. So said, fine, maybe 2 degrees is tolerable. 1.5 degrees is what we want. Because even at 1.5 degrees, it is not certain that you will be able to totally prevent the loops from getting activated. You could say from getting switched on. Like a chain reaction, like a radioactive fissile nuclear reaction. It's not certain. But there is a probability that 1.5 is when it all begins. So let's stop it before that. At max 2 degrees. At max 2 degrees. So 2015 we said was a landmark. In 2015 we set targets as a planet. All the countries of the earth. We set a target, we said by 2030. Is that the number you find here? 2030? Yeah. So we said by 2030, if we want to contain the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees, then we'll have to bring down our carbon emissions, the global carbon emissions of the entire planet, by 43% compared to the 2019 levels. If you want to keep the temperature rise to just 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial levels, then you will have to limit the carbon emission by decreasing it by 44% below 2019 levels. Why 2019 levels? Because after that you had the epidemic. The COVID pandemic was there. So the carbon levels, you could say they were kind of artificially down in 2020. So we took 2019 as the benchmark. And we said, compared to 2019, we want to bring it down by 43%. And even if we bring it down by 43%, the best that we can get is just a 1.5 degrees rise. Just a 1.5 degrees rise. Why do we need to have this Operation 2030 then? Because this is 2025 and that 1.5 degrees barrier has already been breached. We said we do not want to exceed 1.5 degrees ever. We said we do not want to exceed 1.5 degrees even 100 years from now. Otherwise, something unstoppable will be set into motion. And that has already happened this particular year. We have exceeded 1.5 degrees global temperature rise. In fact, there is some evidence that it has already gone up to the level of 1.7 degrees. 1.7 degrees, and this is not 2030, this is 2025. This is 2025. You get this? When the COP was being held at Paris, 3 pathways emerged. 3 pathways emerged. The first was the green pathway, though it should not be honestly called as green, but it was called green. It was the pathway of limiting carbon emissions to the extent that you do not get more than 1.5 degrees rise. The second was the yellow pathway. You said if you move along this one, then you will get a rise of 2 degrees centigrade. And 2 degrees centigrade ensures that you will have cataclysmic feedback cycles. And then there was the red pathway. Red pathway. And the red pathway said if you take this particular path, then the temperature rise you will get will definitely be more than 3 degrees. And how much more than 3 degrees we cannot say. That's the scary part. Definitely more than 3 degrees, so the bottom line is ensured. There is no way you will not have at least 3 degrees temperature rise, 3 degrees centigrade. That much is ensured. But beyond that we do not know. Because beyond that what will we have? Unstoppable feedback cycles. And we do not know the extent to which they will explode. The extent to which they will amplify, intensify on their own. So it could be 5 degrees, it could even be 7 degrees. We just do not know. We just do not know. And as of today, we are on the red track. Neither red nor yellow, neither green nor yellow, we are on the red track. We are on the red track. Do you understand this? The global emissions, when we said we are taking 2019 as the base, as the standard to compare the coming years with, the global base was 58 gigatons equivalent of carbon dioxide. The green path would have meant reducing it to 33 gigatons of carbon dioxide. The yellow path, 39 gigatons. Currently, the way we are moving, we will be able to have no reduction at all. Zero reduction. And that's not funny. Especially for those who are going to live through it. All those with grey hair are in some sense going to be lucky. They won't be there to experience the worst of it. Instead of a reduction, if we started from a point of 58 gigatons in 2019, where do you think we stand in 2025? 2019, 58. We said 2030 we want to go to 33. From 58 we wanted to go to 33 over a course of 11 years. Right? We are midway through. Where do you think we stand? Where do you think we stand? We stand at a point little more than 58. Instead of reducing it to 33, we have gone on to increase it. And the worst part is, since the last 2-3 years, it's increasing at an increasing rate. It's accelerating. Do you understand how success and that operation are linked? Man wanted success, and this is what he has brought upon himself. Because according to him, success was about the conquest of nature, consumption, prosperity, and the subsequent sensual pleasure. He said, if you can have that, then you can be called as successful. But is that not the idea we all, even today, have of success? Right? The fellow has money, let's call him successful. The fellow consumes a lot of energy, let's call him successful. Would you want to know what do the rich people of the world do when it comes to carbon emissions? We call them successful, right? If we just project two pics here, one of an ordinary looking person and one of a person driving an ultra luxury car, and you are asked to spot the successful one, what would be your first instinct? Which one is successful? The one driving the luxury car, right? Okay. So we come to a more luxurious part of the story now. The richer part of the story now. For us to survive, for us to just come to the point of 43% reduction that we envisaged for ourselves by 2030, the per capita annual CO2 equivalent emission of any citizen of this planet should not exceed 2 tons. 2 tons. That's the sustainable limit. What's the population of the planet? 8+ billion people, right? 8+ billion. And these 8+ billion people each should not be emitting more than 2 metric tons of CO2 each annually. That's all. If you want this planet to survive. That's all. How much do the richest 1% of this planet emit? 2 tons is what is sustainable. 2 tons is what is sustainable. But how much do the successful people emit? Come on. More than 10, more than 20. Oh, you underestimate success so much. Success is intoxication. You do not stop at 10 or 20. You want to just roll on. Huh? I'm moving at the speed of light. They call me Mr. Fahrenheit. That kind of speed you want to have. Why will you stop at 10, 20, 25? Why? Yes? 100. That's it. 100. And we are talking of the top 1% rich people. What if I make it top 0.1%? The one who are really admired. The ones who make it to the Forbes 500 lists and the world's top billionaires lists. The top 0.1%. How much do you think they emit? Come on. 1,000. The scale is logarithmic. 1,000. 2 tons is what is needed to keep the planet alive, and they emit 1,000 tons. 1,000 tons. And see how the curve just logarithmically declines. 0.1 percentile, 1,000 tons. Top 1 percentile, 100. Top 10, 50. 50. 50 or less than 50. Bottom 50%, 5%. Bottom 50%, 5%. Only 5% of the total global carbon emissions come from the bottom 50% of population. And that's the reason why countries like India stand still, even today, below the 2-ton threshold. India per capita carbon dioxide emissions are 1.9 tons per person per annum. How much do you think it is for the EU? For the EU? No, EU is a little conscious place. So I'll take you to the real culprits a little later. Yeah. EU? Yeah, EU is 7. India is 1.9 tons. 2 tons is the sustainable limit, and 2 tons is sustainable only WRT 2030 when it comes to having net zero emissions. And that was the next thing that the Paris Agreement asked for. By 2050, net zero. Net zero is not zero. Net zero means you have to absorb as much as you emit. So you can have non-zero emissions, you can have some emissions, but you also need to absorb them back. That's called net zero. So for net zero, the per capita emissions must actually be cut down to 0.7 tons per person per annum. 0.7. That's what you need for this planet to survive. We are not talking of some random, arbitrary, ambitious target here. This is the minimum that you need if this planet is to live. Else we are going to have a wasteland with no life. So EU is 7 tons. US? US anybody? No. Yeah, 16. US 16. US 16. See, when you want to put your finger on the real culprits, they are not in the entire population of US. Because even within the US, the income distribution is highly skewed. Even within the US, it is the rich ones that are responsible for the climate catastrophe. The GCC, Saudi Arabia, UAE, the Gulf countries, the oil producing countries, 2025. 2 tons is needed by 2030 and 0.7 by 2050, and there they are 20 to 25 tons per person annually. And these are also some of the countries, the oil producing countries, where the rate of reduction, where the governmental willness and initiative to reduce the carbon emission is found to be the lowest, the weakest. Saudi Arabia, Russia, Mexico, and now the US. Now the US. What kind of success it is? Let me give you a figure. The emissions by the top 1% of global population was responsible for 1.3 million deaths in the last 10 years. Should we call it bloody success? Should we? Yeah, we should, if we are to be honest. The emissions by the top 1% richest people of the world in the last decade were responsible for 1.3 million deaths, and those deaths happened mostly in the global south countries like ours. Those deaths didn't happen in their own country. Carbon emissions don't respect national boundaries, do they? They don't. So somebody might emit, some really rich one might emit in the Gulf, or in Russia, or in US, or in China. But countries like India bear the consequences. What would you want to say to such a rich person? He is marinating in wealth. He is rolling in dollars. And he won't even want to know that he has caused these millions of deaths just through his extravagant lifestyle. But that extravagant lifestyle, is that not what we all crave for and take as the equivalent of success? Please tell me. We said bloody success. Is that the success that we want? Is that the success that we want? Because everything that you equate with money and prosperity today is carbon. And carbon means deaths. Carbon means exploitation. And carbon means more than exploitation, extinction. Dozens of species that are disappearing every day for good, forever. Their attribution, their extinction is attributed to climate change. You're not just exploiting living beings, you're making them go extinct forever. If that is the definition of your success, I'll have more money to burn. I'll consume more and more. I'll live the high and the fast life. That life, and we are not talking on a moral basis here. We are talking hard facts and scientific evidence here, right? We are not saying, you should not have money because money is a bad thing and all. No. None of the moralistic preaching, nothing. We are talking science here, science, hard science. Should that be your definition of success? Please think. Please think. Should you be impressed when you find somebody flaunting his money? Should you be impressed? But we do get impressed, don't we? We do get impressed, right? Not only do we ourselves get impressed, there is something within us that takes some kind of hollow pride in flaunting money if we have it. In fact, sometimes, most of the times, we flaunt money even if we do not have it. Right? Don't we? Those who can't have the real Western luxury brands, they go for their cheap Chinese copies. Right? There's a certain pervert pleasure in showing off that you are successful. But this definition of success that deals with amassing stuff, with conquering nature, with deforestation, with more and more land available for your own personal consumption, this definition of success is dirty, violent, and criminal. Can there be an alternative definition of success? I don't know. But we need to figure it out. We should have figured it out long back. It's already too late. It's already too late. Please understand, it's not just about temperature rise. When a system gets infused with additional energy, that energy will show up not just in the form of temperature, but in all other ways. Precipitation patterns will be totally disrupted. Wind speeds would go haywire. All that is energy, right? Which basically means that agriculture would become a very difficult thing. It would rain when it does not. And when it's supposed to rain, it won't. And that also means that the poorest are going to bear the brunt of it. Those who emit the least will suffer the most. Those who emit the most will suffer the least. This is called climate injustice. Do you want to have injustice at the foundation of your success, would you be happy? Think of those who are celebrating by murdering these 1.3 million people. And these are all poor people. Sub-Saharan Africa, the Indian subcontinent. And these deaths will go unnoticed because they are not all dying at once at one place in one day. It's not sensational. So it won't catch the media's attention. It's happening all over the place and all the time. It will become so commonplace that it will become the new normal. But death is death, right? And we are only talking of human deaths so far. In between, we talked of the other species that are going permanently extinct because of human action. That's what we are doing. That's what our flawed definition of success is doing. Now, as the new generation taking over the mantle, do you want to continue with that old definition of success? See how difficult it is to say no in a firm and resounding way, right? Because that success just tempts. It's so lucrative. But I'll be happy if even a few of you say no to that kind of success. Do you have a few people who would want to definitely reject the kind of success that's based on obliterating the planet itself? Do we have a few people ready to say no? Think over it. Think over it. Yes, we all want to succeed. Yes, we must be winners. But can we have a more honest, authentic, and less violent definition of success? Does success have to be about exploiting resources and exploiting the poor? Does success have to be about psychological warfare and one-upmanship and showing yourself superior to your neighbor or to your batchmate or to your colleague? Does it have to be that way? What then, alternatively, can success be? Contribute to the society, making the world a better place. All very nice, but also very cliched. All right. If I want so desperately, if each of us, we all so desperately want to win, what does that tell about our current condition? When you are already well fed, do you still want to eat? Having slept for 8 hours, do you still want to sleep? Usually not. Sometimes yes. Some of you are already dozing off. Huh? So if you want something very desperately, that's an evidence that you don't have it right now. Right? When you're famished, then you say, oh, show me food. Right? So if we are constantly saying, show me success, what does that tell about our current condition? We feel like failures and losers. So before we come to an alternate definition of success, should we not inquire what makes us feel like losers in the first place? Had we not been feeling like losers, why would we clamor for success so much? If I'm not thirsty, why will I constantly keep looking at water and dreaming of water? Doesn't make sense. I have to be thirsty. First of all, I must figure out why are we all so thirsty? And we are not thirsty at this point, at this place, in this condition. We find everybody is thirsty for success. Probably we are born thirsty. Probably it's the fundamental human condition to feel like a loser. Right? And that's why even when kids, when they fight each other, they want to win. They want to dominate. They want to be called the superior one. And that's a tendency we share with animals, don't we? Don't we? Yeah. So there is something within us that's not okay with itself. And that's why it wants to exploit the other. The other could be my brother, my father, my mother, my neighbor, or the jungle, entire planet with all its nature. Yeah? Because I feel that unless I conquer somebody, I won't be all right within. That's the fundamental human condition. That's the point man started from. He was feeling like a loser and he thought maybe if I conquer externally, I'll start feeling good about myself. Right? But had he paused for a while, looked within, and figured out what is it that really nails him down, that really makes him feel defeated internally, then he could have maybe given himself a more targeted medicine, a wiser medicine, no? Those who have known, they have said, your internal weaknesses make you fight external enemies. They've not stopped here. They've said your internal weaknesses make you imagine external enemies. They have said when these weaknesses are all raging within, then it becomes compulsory for you to display a fake strength on the outside. When internally you feel defeated all the time, then there is great temptation to feel like a conqueror outside. And what is this internal defeat? This internal defeat is something that we are all born with. But thankfully, it's not a defeat that is compulsory or permanent. We are all born with no sense of who we are, right? Seen a newborn throwing her limbs always possible, making no sense of what's going on, needing protection all the time, totally dependent on everybody else. Right? That's how we are born. We do not know what's going on. And when you do not know what's going on, often you want to clutch at everything. When you do not know what you really need, then often you desire everything. When you do not know what you really need, then you shop for everything, don't you? Have you seen that? You walk into a super mall, which has everything under the sky, but you do not know what you really want. So you end up shopping a lot. Whereas a fellow who clearly knows what he or she needs, walks in, picks up, and gets out. Those who stay shopping for 6 hours are those who probably don't need to shop for anything. Because they don't really need anything, hence they want everything. And that is what must be known. What is it that you really, really internally need? That is the kind of success that your generation must now espouse. Because the old model of success has totally failed you. Not only has it failed you, the debris of the old model of success is all upon you. The old ones have left that debris for you. And if debris doesn't sound scary enough, let me call it radioactive debris. How does it feel now? They consumed the planet, and the ashes have been left for you to deal with. The generations before yours, they have burned the planet down. And it's now upon you to make amends. That's not a happy place to be in, right? You cannot carry forward their legacy. Can you? So you need to have a new definition of success altogether. I need to fight the enemy inside. The enemy isn't out there. First of all, the enemy is in here, here, here. These are the two kinds of successes possible. Very carefully, you must pick yours. Do you want to continue the way the oldies went and destroyed themselves and the entire planet? Or do you want to have a new path, a new light for yourself? What do you want? The same old beaten road? A new path. Fine. Not sure whether the story was entertaining or it needs to be told. It needs to be told again and again, over and over again, because you guys, you will be taking it all on yourself, right? You must know these things, and the media is not bringing these things to you, is it? Is it there on national news? Do you find it on entertainment channels? Are movies being made on these themes? Even in the print media, are these things being covered? Rarely. And social media, we take that to be democratic. Are these things talked of even in social media? Rarely. And even if somebody talks of them, does the algorithm support that or promote that? No, it does not. You must talk of these things because it's your life, your planet, your future. Getting it? It might not be that entertaining, but I hope it is a bit illuminating. Today we need illumination more than entertainment. Do we agree? And illumination itself has a certain joy about it. Has it not? No? Yeah. Yes. Any follow-ups or next questions?
Sir, I have a...
Good afternoon, sir. I am Katyayani and I have a follow-up question. Your answer provided immense clarity on the true definition of success. But I was curious, how do we know that we are chasing the right version of success?
You have to be with yourself. It's your life that you have to live, right? Right? Only you can know what is it that bogs you down internally. These are your fears, insecurities. we are vague within, hazy within. When it comes to taking important decisions, we look around, don't we?
Yes,
We experience all of that. And that's what we have to know. Not just push under the carpet. We get angry. We get instinctive. We get reactive. Don't we? This is what needs to be conquered, not the forest. That's the weakness that you have to conquer. Somebody comes and says, you're Katyayani, right?
Yes, sir.
Not looking good. And you find, it's bogging you. Even 2 hours later, you find it's still here. Some odd comment by a random stranger. He just said, no, not looking fine. Something wrong with you. And you're still holding on to it. That's the weakness. And that's not a small thing. Because that's what is life. A series of such micro events, day in and day out. Somebody comes and says something, and you get angry. And the bigger thing is, you got angry at exactly the same thing last month as well. And the month before that. And the month before that. And the month before that. That's what you need to conquer. That's where success lies. And those who can conquer themselves, they find that they do not desire any kind of nonsense on the outside. And then what they want on the outside becomes very readily available. I'm saying two things. One, when you are clear about yourself, when you watch your actions, your reactions, your thoughts, your hopes, all these things. And these are continuously happening with us, right? When you watch these things and you know what is it that keeps cooking within, you have some clarity about that. Then first thing, you do not rush after random targets on the outside. Second thing, the target that you now set with clarity now doesn't remain beyond you. The one who has conquered the enemy within finds it relatively easier to conquer whatever she wants on the outside. On the other hand, if you have not looked inside yourself and you keep conquering stuff outside, you find all those conquests are hollow and you are still hungry for more. And this hunger is what is the devastation of the planet.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We can have the next
We have a
question.
parallel conversation going on behind or something? Yes.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Siddhi Deshwal. I am in 11th grade right now. And first of all, your words, they truly inspired me. My mother is a big follower of yours, so she's told me a lot about you. One thing which I really wanted to know is that we're all 11th and 12th graders, and we all have to deal with failures, setbacks. We have to deal with external responsibilities, distractions and whatnot. So, the Gita, it's not just a religious book, it's also a life coach. So any verses in it or any advice from it which you would like to explain to us, which helps us deal with that specifically?
Ignore the random noises, choose the right word, and then give yourself fully to it. There would be random provocations, insinuations, stimulations, something pricks from here, somebody pokes from there. All those petty things are to be ignored. And then you'll be in a position to pick only the right war for yourself. The right war. That's all. You cannot have a war on 1,000 fronts. That's not possible. You have to ignore the 999 trivial fronts. Choose the one thing that's worth doing in life and then allow yourself to be fully immersed in it, totally immersed in it. That's what Sri Krishna is telling Arjun. Now fight. You have lived all your life only to come to this point. Now you can't run away. Fight. This is the right battle. And this is not something you can abscond from. And please remember, Arjun fought so many wars in his life. The Gita was not delivered. The Gita was not delivered. The Gita came to Arjun only when it was the moment of the highest battle. You'll have to choose the highest battle for yourself, and then you'll have Krishna and Gita for yourself. If you are involved in all kinds of trivial engagements, locking horns with this one, brushing shoulders against that one, getting irritated by that one. Oh, that one rubbed me the wrong way. The Gita is not for these things. You need to have a battle worthy enough. And then you will have a life great enough. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Divyanshi. I wanted to know how can an individual live a life without seeking validation or recognition from an authoritative figure, especially when it has been withheld in the past?
No, authority is needed, yes. Let me reframe the question and then tell me whether I have rightly done so. What you do not want is an external authority. It's not that you do not want an authority at all. What is problematic is an external authority. Let your best discretion be the authority. How about that? Because internally, we are not one being, right? Have you seen? One part of you wants to play mischief. One part of you wants to say, no, what's the point in completing the assignment? Let me copy it from somewhere. What's the point in waking up and setting up the alarm and preparing for the exam? Let me just sleep through it. It's fine, That's one part. And then the other part says, no. No. So, there is a higher self within. There is a higher self within. And there is a lower self within. The lower self says, keep sleeping even through the moments that beckon you, that call you to accept the challenge. That's the lower self. Right? The higher self says, don't worry about the damage you will suffer. If the challenge is worth it, accept it. That's the higher self. Let the higher self be the authority. And when you have the right authority within yourself, then you do not require somebody outside of yourself to be the authority. An external authority or an external discipline is needed only because we lack internal authority and internal discipline. Then the external authority comes and says, you be disciplined, you move this way, you follow this schedule, you stick to this deadline. That's what the external authority does, right? Sets do's and don'ts, operation manuals, right? Codes of conduct. That's what the external authority does. And says, you'll have to take validation from me. I'll authorize, I'll approve, I'll permit. All these things can be done by the
Inner self.
Internal authority also. The punishment for not having an internal authority is that you'll have to tolerate an external authority. Do you want to tolerate that? Then be your own strictest authority.
Thank you, sir.
You see, there are two kinds of people. One, those who are not doing what they should. Those who are not doing what they should. And when the external authority chastises them, or reminds them, occasionally rebukes them, then they feel angry at the external authority. Now, you were not doing what you should anyway be doing. And somebody comes and tells you, this is what you must be doing. This is in your own interest. If you do this, you'll be a better person. And who do you get angry at? The external one. This is one kind of. The other kind, I'm not doing what I should. And the external one comes and reminds me, or admonishes me. I get angry at myself and I feel gratitude for him. The situation is inverted now. Do you understand that? I get angry at myself. Why did I have to bring it to a point where somebody else had to get in and remind me? This is something that I should be doing on my own. Why do I need an external authority? And if the external authority had to step in, that's not a fault of that authority. That's my fault. Because I should have been doing without needing any reminders, without needing any stimulation, without needing any encouragement to do what I must. But most of us lack this mustness in life. All we have is petty desires or flow of the past, flow of habits. I've not been doing this since 2 years, so I won't do this today either. That doesn't even sound good. How can it feel good while doing? So when you find yourself being disciplined by an external authority, ask yourself, what did I do to deserve this? Don't get angry at that one. In fact, thank that one. And that source, that authority deserves to be thanked. Because that one has come to tell you what you must do. So thank that one, but internally make a promise to yourself. Next time I should not need this person. This time he had to step in and I duly thanked him or her, whatever. Right? This time this fellow had to intervene and I thank him for that. But I commit to myself that next time I will not need this person. If it's my life, then it's my responsibility. If it's my life, then I have to be the authority. I'll be the king and the queen of my life because it's my life. Why should I need somebody to discipline me? Right? Yeah.
Greetings, Acharya sir. I'm Navami. I'm a student of class 12. And I would feel that, this age that we're in, all of us students here, we're quoted as teenagers. And my question would be that as teenagers, it is really difficult for us sometimes to comprehend and navigate through our emotions. Especially
through our emotions.
Navigate through our emotions, what we're feeling.
Yeah.
Especially as a lot of these emotions that we feel are really unfamiliar and new to us. And we end up thinking, oh, my problems are much bigger than what they actually are. So what advice would you give to all of us here?
Thank you. Very pertinent question. See, until you have seen the Himalayas, even the little hillock in your backyard, appears like Mount Everest. You get this? The mistake that we make as young people is that we take our surroundings as the universe. And we take tradition as the truth. We feel that if something is not visible in our surroundings, it probably does not exist at all. And the way the human species is, it is very, very probable, almost 100% certain, that what any of us will have in our surroundings, in our vicinity, will be dwarfs. And that's not an insult to the society that we have around us. That's the fundamental human condition. That's the fundamental human condition. We are all born probably to be mediocre. Greatness is a rare thing. Greatness has to be earned. And very few people display the commitment to rise to greatness. Consequently, what you will usually find yourself amidst is a large number of very small people. What you'll usually find all around you is a large number of small people. And the mistake that you make is that you start thinking that what's near you is universal. So you have somebody around you, and for this person, and this fellow is a senior, you are 15 or 17 or 18, a teenager, and this fellow could be 40 or 60. He appears experienced, respectable. And you're seeing that even for this fellow, some petty matter becomes huge. And he is totally engaged with it, totally consumed by it. So what do you start thinking? You start thinking that this petty thing is indeed something so significant, something so colossal, that it deserves this kind of consideration and attention. Because that's what you find people doing all around you. Are you getting it? No. We said greatness is rare. So go to the rare ones. And those rare ones, by definition, will be rarely found around you. You will have to make special efforts to go to them. It is an extremely rare thing to find the rare one right next to you. And that rare event should actually not happen, because when the rare one is right next to you, then for you, he ceases to be rare. And then you turn kind of indifferent or even contemptuous. You say, he's right here. How can he be the rare one? So it's best then to go to the rare ones through their works, specifically books. Books is where you will find those who could just ignore the petty and little things of life. And you look at them and you see what all they stood through, what all they took in their stride. You look at the challenges that they happily endorsed. And then you look at your own troubles. And what do you find? You find your troubles are tiny, puny. And then you say, I don't need to give too much attention to my troubles. Look at this one. Look at this one in the book. And I'm not talking of fictitious figure here. We are talking of real people who have lived, breathed, and died on this planet. Look at them. But they won't be found in the neighborhood. It's going to be Very difficult if you look for these figures in the neighborhood Khannaji or Tauji. Difficult. Not maybe impossible, but the probability is like 1 upon Avogadro's number. No, Avogadro's number. No. 1 upon Avogadro's number. Are you getting it? If you do not come in touch with, as they talk of in Hindi, the Koop Manduk, the frog in the well. Huh? What does he know of the ocean? If you have not known the ocean, at least know those who have known the ocean. At least you'll have some idea of the ocean, and that will maybe encourage you to leave your own little well one day and move towards the ocean. Otherwise, the petty affairs of the little well will consume you totally. And that's a grave danger. All these little petty things of daily life. Getting it? I have to buy a new shirt. The vehicle is to be serviced. I'm not saying these things must not be done. These things must be done, but it must also be remembered that these are very trivial things. The vehicle needs to be serviced. Somebody uttered a bad word to me. Some wedding is approaching, so I must get new clothes for myself. I didn't get enough likes on my last Insta post. Nothing is enough. Nothing is enough. But when you are with the greats through their work, through documentaries made on them, through their biographies, through their autobiographies, then you realize what life really is about. Then you feel like standing in front of the real Mount Everest and saying, here is where the earth meets the sky. Yes, without reading, you will be consumed. The world is such that it will suck you in and destroy you.
Do we have any follow-up questions to what was discussed? You have follow-up?
Good afternoon, Prashant sir. My name is Anugrah. So my question is for you is that today's generation, while being exposed to internet, is making certain choices that will affect them in the future. For example, their lifestyle, like they want to flaunt it, like you have said earlier in your speech only. So how does one navigate through this without getting affected by their surroundings, what others are doing?
You can get affected by what others are doing, but those others have to be worthy others. Worthy others. You don't need to be influenced by every Tom, Dick and Harry. But fortunately for you, we are a species that keeps records, details, accounts of history. And since we are in the 21st century, post-Christ, we have more than 3,000 years of history of greats available to us. Allow them to have an impact on you. Why not go to the great scientists or athletes or artists or even warriors, philosophers? Why not go to them? Why not sit in their company? Why is it a compulsion on you that you must be only around your Insta community? I'm asking you, even that is virtual, right? Will you ever physically see all the people who have liked your posts? No. Even they are virtual, right? And if you have to deal with virtual people, why not deal with the greats of the past? They didn't do it necessarily for themselves, whatever they did. So many of them wanted nothing really from the world because they were already all right. They were already fulfilled and joyful, doing what they did and living how they lived. But they still left very detailed accounts for you because they loved you. Because they knew that it would not be easy for you to find something comparable to what they had found. So they left behind their accounts, their stories. It's like inheritance, real inheritance, not the kind of material inheritance that we get from parents and grandparents, not that. Something much, much beyond that. They left it in their love for your sake. Getting it? Allow them to leave an imprint on you. Great books, that's what you need. Allow yourself to be inspired. Do not bear the tyranny of the immediate. Because these are my classmates, so I have to be with them. Not necessary. These are the kind of people in my society. What do I do? Jeena to inhi ke saath hai. Not necessarily. For some practical reasons, yes, we have to be with the people around us because we are social people, obviously. But then internally you can choose to be in your own elevated world. Getting it? Externally, maybe you'll be sitting with your immediate surroundings. Yes. Externally, sometimes that is unavoidable. But internally, you can be in very noble, very august company. Let that happen. I use the word tyranny. Why should the external be compulsorily allowed to become internal? Why should the external be allowed to dictate the environment within? Outside of me, there might be all noisy people, all petty people, all selfish people. But why should I allow them to penetrate my heart and occupy a very central position here? No. Yes, you can keep sitting outside. I'm just a student, class 11th, class 12th. I don't have much resistance to offer when it comes to the external situation. But my internal situation will be my own decision. This internal province, I will be the king. And I choose to raise this internal thing to a high point. Even if all around me is chaos and noise and littleness and meanness, yet see who I am really with. I am really with someone. Yeah, that's one of the probably the only ways possible. Because getting great company of living people may take time. It's not impossible, but it's not always easy. It may take time. You don't need to wait till then. Give yourself the right books. Okay? Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Gurnoor Kaur. Good afternoon, sir. I am Gurnoor Kaur of class 11th. First of all, your words have provided enlightenment about success and a lot more things I feel not only to me, but each one of us sitting over here. As you mentioned earlier that there are a lot of distractions, particularly at this age, like social media nowadays and constant comparison. Also the temptations to opt for shortcuts. So precisely my question to you is that how should we train our mind to focus on what truly matters?
By knowing what truly matters. See, the thing with that which truly matters, the thing with that is that once you know it, you cannot ignore it. So just knowing it is sufficient. Once you know what is really, really important, you will be helpless. You will be choiceless. You will no more have the option to see it and yet unsee it. To come to its greatness and then turn your back to it. That will become impossible. So seeing is sufficient. But how do you see? How do you know what is truly important? By not being in a hurry to accept the definitions of importance handed over to you by tradition. See, tradition does not want you to independently figure out what is important in life. Tradition tells you in advance, this is important, right? You didn't decide it for yourself. You were told such things are important, right? And you just bought them. You didn't even buy them. You believed in them. You believed in them. Now that has to stop. You're grown-ups. You must question. You must ask. You must inquire. You must experiment. Because if you have ready-made definitions of what is important, then you will never come to what is truly important. You must reject all the definitions that tradition has handed over to you. You must pick such and such subjects in class 11th and 12th. That kind of college is wonderful. That stream offers great opportunities. Now, whatever opportunities mean. Oh, there is great scope in that field. And what the word scope means always remains fuzzy. But these are buzzwords, no? Scope. Now, what does scope mean? What do you mean by scope? We don't know. Potential for what? We don't know. What kind of success? Oh, now you have reached this age. Now you must start thinking of getting married. And once you are married, you must start thinking of having kids. And then one kid does not suffice. You must have another one. All these things are very important. Oh, you are now 35 and you still don't have a house of your own. Where is the house loan? Where are the EMIs? Why is your car so small? It's important to have a big one. How do you know all these things are important? I'm not saying they're not important. I'm saying the definitions must be your own. And then if on your own, independently, in your own discretion, in your own wisdom, if you decide that these things are indeed important, then so be it. Then it's fine. But don't take these things on a platter, on face value. Just because somebody says it is important to be like that or do that. No. I'm not rejecting you. I'm asking you to explain. I'm just saying this is something so intimate that I must be allowed to independently come to it. These are not things that one person can decide for another. There are some things that a young man, young woman should do very, very individually, without interference, without fear, and without the burden of tradition. In many things, we can accept rules made by others, right? For example, on the road, traffic rules. You don't need to be a rebel there. You don't need to say, I'll drive wrong side because that's my individuality. Or I'll drive only in reverse gear because who are you to tell me the rules? My life, my rules, and I drive in the reverse. That's stupid. When it comes to small things, external things, then we can accept rules made by others. That's fine. That's fine. I didn't decide the dimensions of this stage, and I'm okay with it. Fine. And there have been smaller stages, and there have been stages that are 5 times this width. That's fine. These are small things. I don't need to worry about these things, right? But I'll be very, very particular that the content is very individual. That what I'm saying to you, our relationship here is very intimate. Nobody can decide what I'm going to say to you, because this is not something somebody should interfere in. Yes, you can dictate all other things. Fine, that's fine. That's fine. Are you getting it? And when you are able to independently inquire into what's really important, the first thing that happens is a lot of unimportant things, they disappear from life. A fresh space gets revealed because the nonsense is now out. That this nonsense was never being revealed as nonsense. This nonsense was being touted as some of the most important things in life. Oh, you must look pretty as a girl. That's very important. That's very important. Why don't you look pretty or dainty or attractive? Are you getting it? You must ask, why must I? No, I'm not rejecting. I'm inquiring. Why must I? Who am I? What is meant by attraction? What is meant by attractiveness? When these kind of things, they are out of the window, then there is space for the truly important to reveal itself. As long as, please note this, your mind is cluttered with trivia, the really important thing will remain buried beneath the trivia. So you don't really need to discover what is important. It will show up. But it can show up only, first of all, when you have cleared away and decluttered the nonsense. Rejection is important, very important. And if your age, you cannot inquire, question, reject, then what's the point? We said tradition is not truth, mind you. Huh?
Are there any more questions or any follow-ups to this? The current discussion? Your follow-up?
Do you understand what that signifies? Yeah.
So I felt that first off, everything that you've said today, that has truly changed my way of thinking in some way. And my follow-up question would be that we just talked about tradition not being the truth and all the buzzwords that are thrown at us. So I feel that in today's world, there are a lot of students, a lot of brilliant young minds who do try to rise above it. But somewhere or another, there is this notion that the one who goes against tradition, the one who tries to defy it, is somehow the one in the wrong. So how does one truly rise above this tradition?
No, let that notion be there on the outside. There are other people who carry that notion. Why must you carry that notion? You may, or somebody here may, or many people here may carry the notion that somebody wearing a yellow blazer is stupid. That's fine. That is your notion, not mine. Are you getting it? People are free to carry whatever the notions they can. People carry all kinds of weird notions. Let them carry their notions. As long as it exists outside of you, you're all right. It's like the virus, the coronavirus. Let it be there. Everything has a place under the sun. All these pathogens have been existing in jungles and their own native places since the beginning of time. Let them exist there. If a virus exists in the jungle, in the bat, how does it trouble you? The problem is when you allow it to enter your interiors. Don't give it access. This has to be your sacred spot. Your mind has to be your temple. Not all thoughts, no random ideas can be given access to this place. This is what is sacredness.
So all the student questions for today. Yes. So we can proceed with the next part. You want to come in? No? You had a question?
Good afternoon, Acharya ji. So, good afternoon, Acharya ji. So,
That's fine, yeah. That's fine. Let him speak.
yeah, so good afternoon, Acharya ji.
It's
So-
a good afternoon, yes.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned that it's not always the case that we should agree to the age-old tradition, the age-old principle that has been laid out from the years, from the ages. But on the other hand, we see that we can rely on thinkers, from the people, from historical instances that have done something great at their time. But we see that every era, every situation has different circumstances, and it's not like that we can always rely on the principles that were laid out at that time. So I just want to know that how can we tune in their message, their principles, the ideals that they lived up to in our age?
They never give you do's and don'ts. Typically, a great one will not give you principles. The great one is great because he inspires you with his struggles. He does not impose his principles on you. What you will find in his or her life is a lot of relentless inquiry and living up to challenges. It is not the job or characteristic of the great one to impose his thoughts or ideas on somebody else, especially the coming generations. That's not what the great one is ever going to do. For example, Gita, somebody talked of. The Gita is not an idea. The Gita does not consist of a set of principles. There is ruthless, raw questioning involved there. And the Gita exhorts you to ask questions, similar questions. Are you getting it? Your question is, why must I accept the answers that are coming from another century? What I'm saying is, if those things are coming from the greats, they will not be in the shape of answers. Rather, they'll be in the shape of questions. They'll tell you not to accept easy answers. That's what the greats tell you.
Thanks a lot.
Sir, on behalf of everyone, I would just like to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. We have benefited immensely from what we have received from today, sir. This session will not leave us the same anymore.
I'm glad. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.